All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. So if you haven't already known that we're actually partnering up with Fishbowl, it's an exciting partnership. It's a new integration that we're going to be doing. So what we're going to, just to go over the, what we're going to be going over today, if you have any questions whatsoever, on your screen, there's going to be your GoToWebinar screen, there's going to be an option that's going to have you ask questions. And you can just type in your questions right there, and then we'll get to your questions at the end of the webinar. We'll have about 10-15 minutes set aside for Q&A. But what I want to do next is going over our introduction. So on the Webshop Manager side, we have Paula Palladino. She's our Client Experience Director. Some of you may know her. And then you have me, Adam Jennings. I am our training specialist here. And then on the Fishbowl side, we have Trent Devey. He's their go-to guy. He's our go-to guy when it comes to Fishbowl to answer any questions. So with that being said, Trent, I'm going to go ahead and give you the juice here. So
great, thank you.
No worries. And make you presenter. All right, you should be good to go.
Good, good. All right, so everybody hopefully can see my screen. Am I cursor moving in circles there?
Yes.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Adam. I appreciate your everybody's time today. What I want to kind of do in the demonstration today is I'm not going to get into too many specifics, and I certainly want to make sure that we have time for questions. But first of all, what I want to cover is just what is Fishbowl. You know, when does it make sense to use Fishbowl? What are we? And I want to make sure that I cover how do we work with Webshop Manager? How do we work with Quickbooks? And make sure all these questions are covered. And so you have a really good idea today of what we are and what we can bring to the table, if you will. So first of all, to define what Fishbowl is basically a full-scale WMS manufacturing. You've heard the term like ERP, MRP system that uses QuickBooks for accounting and Webshop Manager for e-commerce. I think that's the best way to think of us. So we really built our software. We've been around for about 18 years now, but we originally built our software for users that have been using QuickBooks, but have simply outgrown it. And at that point, they realized, all right, we need something larger, more robust than what we're doing with QuickBooks, but we don't necessarily want to leave QuickBooks for accounting. So that was our original market that we went after. Fishbowl certainly can be used as the standalone warehouse manufacturing order processing forecasting system, but we do have that integration with QuickBooks for the accounting side of things. We do also work with Xero for accounting, and also have a light integration with Sage as well. But really, Fishbowl was built as a software to really take over the front-end management of your software. And then it still utilizes QuickBooks for accounting, Webshop Manager for your e-commerce. So your day-to-day people would be in Fishbowl. So Fishbowl becomes your warehouse management system, your main tool, your sales, your purchasing. And then we do things with QuickBooks such as accounts payable, accounts receivable, your general ledger, your accounts, your chart of accounts. That's what's updated in QuickBooks. But really everybody else would be in Fishbowl. So we built an automation system that can literally go from your customer placing the order in Webshop Manager, that order being pulled into Fishbowl to be processed, picked, packed, and shipped. And then we will update Webshop Manager with information like track information, inventory numbers. So we built a complete automation system so it automates that flow from the customer order information all the way to a pick, pack, and ship motion, all the way back to Webshop Manager. And we're going to get into more details with that. And also with this demonstration today, I'm not going to get too specific, but what I would like to do is anybody that would like to see a one-on-one demonstration with what you do specifically, I'd love to get something scheduled with each one of you to have you tell me about your business, tell me about the things that are most important to you, and then walk you through that one-on-one demonstration where we can get into details, where we can actually plug in your own information, walk through each of your processes. So please, if this spurs enough interest today to get you into a one-on-one demonstration, I'd love to do that for each of you. We can even go as far as you sending me a few of your parts in a spreadsheet where I can upload them in the Fishbowl database and literally walk through your processes with your own data. So I wanted to make sure that, that again, today is understood. It's really just kind of a high-end overview, but the one-on-one demonstrations that we do with each of you can be very specific as well. All right, first, to get into the software, I do want to just quickly show you the general navigation of Fishbowl. I want to talk about how we integrate with QuickBooks and Web Shop Manager, and then we'll talk through a few features with like forecasting, purchase planning, barcode scanning. If there's manufacturers on the call, we can get into some of those details as well. But the first thing we did when we wrote Fishbowl is we thought we've got to write this as intuitive as possible for the ease of transition for our companies. So Fishbowl, we try to write it almost like an Outlook type of feel where you have groups that open up different modules at top here. So what Fishbowl will do is Fishbowl, as far as it works, is each of these groups open up different modules. So the materials group is doing kind of your materials management, your part and inventory control. Your sales is kind of where you're doing, creating sales orders or simply pulling them in from Web Shop Manager right into the picking, packing, shipping flow. Again, we're going to get into the details with this in a moment. Purchasing and receiving is here in this purchasing group. If you're a manufacturer out there, we do certainly do manufacturing, which we'll get into. Your link with QuickBooks is here in the accounting, and some of the setup Fishbowl initially is here in the setup group. Like I was saying before, Fishbowl can be used as a standalone, but we do also have that full integration with all the versions of QuickBooks, Pro, Premier, Enterprise, including the online version of QuickBooks. We do also have a connection with Xero if we have any Xero users as well. Now, what we do with QuickBooks is we're simply updating QuickBooks with the accountant's job, which is accounts payable, accounts receivable, general ledger, chart of accounts. That's how we update the QuickBooks. We update QuickBooks and sync to QuickBooks as often as you wish through our scheduler, similar to what we're doing with our Web Shop Manager connection, where it's scheduled, every minute, go to send what needs to go, send to QuickBooks, go to Web Shop Manager, pull orders in. So this is how we're syncing and scheduling all this information with our QuickBooks and our Web Shop Manager connection. Few items in the setup group down here. Fishbowl certainly can track more than one warehouse. We're a multiple warehouse tracking tool. So for these examples here, I've got, my Salt Lake City, my Miami, my Los Angeles warehouse. So in Fishbowl, you can say, I'm buying into this warehouse, my inventory is in stock in this warehouse, or I'm selling from this warehouse. So Fishbowl can certainly track if you have more than one location. Within the warehouses, though, Fishbowl can track really aisles, sections, bins, areas, really as detailed as you want to get of where you store your inventory. So in Fishbowl, you have the ability to literally map out your warehouse. By mapping out your warehouse appropriately as well, it's going to literally guide your pickers around the warehouse to make sure that they're pulling appropriately and in the most efficient manner. Again, this is kind of where you schedule your updates to QuickBooks and Web Shop Manager. So it's all kind of built in here to the setup. Let's go into this materials group, and let's just quickly kind of talk about inventory control, creating items, additional information that we can track. We can talk about kitting and how we do kitting and barcode scanning. But here in the part modules, really where we're setting up each of your items. Now, here's my item number, here's my description, here's an image of the item as well. Fishbowl, for each of your items, Fishbowl will record every time you buy that item from a vendor. What vendor do we buy it from? What do we pay for it each time we buy it? When is the last date we purchased it? And what did it cost us? We do also automatically track in the background lead time from your vendors as well. From the date I place the order to the date receive in stock, how long is it taking me to get this inventory? So what Fishbowl does with lead time, though, is it has an option to help you and alert you of when you should order more inventory based on a lead time, but based on other factors as well. As far as purchase planning, and again, this is what we can get into in more specific demos, but we can look at historical sales, we can look at forecasted growth, We can look at current orders to make a projection of what inventory needs to be purchased and what purchase orders need to be created. Fishbowl does also set reorder points based on that information. If I were to get down to 3, we should have at least 10 in stock. So what it does is we have a tool in Fishbowl. Well, first of all, we can even send you like email alerts saying, this is everything that's gone below a reorder point. This is what we recommend you create a purchase order for. Or Fishbowl can take it one step further, which we have this auto purchase function, which is going to look at your current reorder levels, look at your lead time from your vendors, and then it's going to list out and make recommendations of all the purchase orders that it recommends that you make at that time. For any just-in-timers out there, Fishbowl can also pick up any back orders with this auto PO. So if you're doing orders all day long through your web shop manager, Fishbowl can say, this is everything that you need to order in order to fulfill those orders that you just got today. And that auto PO will say, this is what you need. Do you want me to go ahead and create purchase orders for it? So that's another tool. Other than the purchase planning side of it, again, it can create purchase orders for back orders as well. Going back to this part module here, talked about the vendors and how it tracks and the reordering. Fishbowl can also track lot numbers, serial numbers. We do have the ability to also create pallet tags. So any users that are dealing with pallets, we do have the ability to kind of create those pallets, generate a sticker, a barcode to stick on the pallets. So you can walk up to it, scan it, see what pallet's on there. You know, I'm pulling these 5 from this pallet, so you can see what inventory is left on a pallet. But we do also certainly can do the complete traceability of serial numbers. We bought this serial number in on this vendor. We eventually sold it to this customer. So at any time you could look up in Fishbowl, say, you know, this serial number was sold to this customer. This is when they bought it. This is when the warranty is up. So any type of tracking. We can also create custom tracking. So this is not specific. What I'm trying to say, this is user defined, really. So you can create your own tracking that may be more specific to your business here. All right, so that's kind of creating the parts. In the database, Fishbowl does have the ability, and I would assume many of you are out there with your industry, can say, we might sell this by a case, we might sell this by an each, we might sell it a pack of 12, a pack of 15, whatever it is. So in Fishbowl, we do have the ability to create an item with a unit of measure, the lowest unit of measure that you sell it in. But then we have the ability to create multiple products on how you would sell that. So in Fishbowl, for the same inventory part, you could create, I can sell this by a case, I can sell it by a pallet. We even have a place where you can tell the program how you buy it. So in Fishbowl, you can buy it in one unit of measure, stock it in another, and sell it in 30 different ways, is the idea. While we're talking about the kind of the part and the products, Fishbowl does also have the ability to do kitting. And how we track kitting is each of these items, when I sell this K200 kit, each of these items are sold as individual items, can be sold as individual items, but when I sell it as a K200, Fishbowl will kit them together to ship it to the customer. Fishbowl can also do options within those kits. So it can say, all right, here is an emergency pack. What do you want to go with, the deluxe, the standard, or this option? So it has the ability for you to select options, or from the web shop manager can literally go from here's the options I created into Fishbowl to grab the appropriate kit that's being shipped to the customer. So it really is just a single line item that's on the order, but it tells the picker what to physically pick. Not only do we do kitting in Fishbowl, but we do also have the ability to do a full manufacturing, which is, the idea would be, I take these 10 items and I put these 10 items together, which I get this item out of it, and then I stock it. The difference between a kit and like an assembly and a manufacturing is a kit really isn't like packaged until I sell it. But when you like a bill of materials and manufacturing is, I'm consuming these materials, I'm making this, and I'm putting it in stock. Then I'm going to report to Web Shop Manager of what I have in stock of that item. So those are really the kind of the differences there. Fishbowl, I'm going to touch on this lightly, and again, I can't emphasize enough. If you want a specific demo on our manufacturing, I'd love to do that because there's so many features within our manufacturing piece. Fishbowl can do multi-level bill of materials, has the ability to do staging, has the ability to build a route in Fishbowl. We do fully work with SolidWorks, Inventor, other engineering softwares. We have the ability for individuals to clock in and clock out of work orders. So we do have a full manufacturing suite. So if anybody would like to see that piece in detail, let's get together one-on-one and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, now this is kind of creating the items. When I purchase inventory in, either by doing an auto purchase order or simply creating a purchase order by hand. Once the purchase order is created in Fishbowl, at that point, we're waiting to receive the inventory in the stock. So it goes to that kind of through a receiving flow to receive my inventory in the stock. Now, this is also the first opportunity you have to pick up a barcode scanner. So Fishbowl is and has a full barcoding mobile solution, and we utilize tablet smartphones because we have an Android and an iOS application. You can utilize full like Motorola scanners like you see here, and these are Android devices. Or you can utilize even something like this, which these are Bluetooth scanners. And these Bluetooth scanners basically are utilizing your tablet, your smartphone as the interface. And then the scanner is what's, you know, instead of using the camera on your phone, which you can use the camera on your phone, but we do offer, you know, hardware if you wanted to use a scanner like this. But it gives you a certain amount of functionality mobily with a scanner or a tablet or smartphone. With our iOS and Android application, you don't even have to use barcode scanning. You can just use the touch screen on the unit as well. You know, but the barcode scanning certainly brings in, you know, make sure that you're shipping the item to the customer ordered, so it does give you that extra step. Our barcode scanner allows you to create boxes or pallets with the scan as well. I can pick, pack, and ship inventory with the scanner. This is kind of what the unit would look like with a tablet. But again, I can scan a part to look up the inventory. I can move inventory around my warehouse. I can transfer inventory from like one warehouse to the other. Again, I can do the full pick, pack, and ship motion with it. And this is kind of where I can receive inventory initially. Fishbowl can also do all of your label generation. Like from this screen, I can come in and have it generate, you know, all my labels that are needed for this particular order. Just a quick example there. We do also have the ability to customize labels for you. We do also give you a label customizer to customize your own and also customize on your own reports. Fishbowl can also generate labels for, just going to bring it here to another section real quick, for like your bins. So if you wanted to stick like a bin location tag on your bins, you know, we can generate those type of labels. I'm putting this away in this scan this bin location. So it's kind of the purchasing, receiving, scanning my inventory in, or utilizing a tablet or smartphone to do that. Again, we can generate the labels to do that. We can also, again, forecast what should be purchased, and also give recommendations and alerts when you're low on inventory as well. Now, when I do receive my inventory in the stock, I can then go into my inventory module here. And I can see, I'll just bring up an example item here. I can see currently for this particular brake cable example, here's how many we have in stock. Here is how many we have on order. And this is also, you'll be able to see this from our sales piece as well. We also report, and this is everywhere in Fishbowl, this particular view. But for example, you can see what's on order. You can even come down here and see if it's on a purchase order and when you scheduled to get it in. Or if this is something you manufacture, is it on a work order and when do you expect to get it in? Now, as we start to sell the inventory, so when we pull these orders from Webshop Manager, we're going to tell the program, this is what's already allocated to that customer. So we start to reserve the inventory. So the number we're setting to Webshop Manager is this number here, which is available for sale. So this is what your customers will see because it's taking away the allocated inventory. And then when I physically pull the inventory off the shelf, and it is in a box ready to be shipped, Fishbowl will commit the inventory at that time. So it's kind of the allocation committed, and Fishbowl has a flow and process which will automatically allocate, automatically committed based on your processes that you develop in Fishbowl. But now it keeps you from overselling inventory. You can always see what you're at. But also, if I have allocated inventory, it could also trigger what needs to be purchased as well there. We also will show any shortages. Fishbowl does not do any negative inventory. We simply throw it into a short or a back order inventory. So it'll immediately say, I need to order more, or something happened and needs to be adjusted. For those out there that maybe do any drop shipping, we do have full drop ship features as well. I never really touch the inventory, but Fishbowl does all the paperwork for you. You create an order for a customer that needs to be drop shipped. Fishbowl will automatically create the purchase order from my vendor to my customer to ship that order to my customer, but it still update QuickBooks appropriately, but it now becomes a drop ship order, which can automatically create the purchase orders necessary for any drop ship customers out there. And again, I'd love to show that feature specifically to any users that want to do a one-on-one demo. If you're doing your own orders in Fishbowl itself, or these orders are coming through our Web Shop Manager connection, I can push my Web Shop Manager connection, which will grab your orders from Web Shop, pull into Fishbowl to be processed. Or again, we do have the ability to, through our scheduler, to automatically grab those orders in through Web Shop Manager into Fishbowl through a scheduler. If you are doing your orders in manually in Fishbowl, we do have a sales order piece. What customer I'm buying from. And again, if this is from WSM, it'll automatically come into Fishbowl as an order that needs to be picked and shipped. In Fishbowl itself, though, even if you need to, Fishbowl does have the ability to categorize your items. We use categories to search. We use categories to report on. So a number of options there. You can also simply search for a part number and description of the item. Anything with a B in it, with a 2 in it, with a 0 in it, simply just starts to filter. I can highlight an item. Fishbowl show me on hand and available to sell. Again, I can also click this button here to get the complete breakdown. What's available to sell at each warehouse? Where is it allocated? So that information from your sales team as well. If you already know the product number, you can simply just start typing it. Here's 5 of this. Right now in Fishbowl, this is not an order that needs to be shipped yet. So we do have the ability to print and do estimates. If anybody out there needs the ability to do print estimates and quoting. Fishbowl also has a full pricing rule module where you can give, if you're a warehouse customer, this is your price. You sell this much, this is your price. We do also pull these rules in from Web Shop Manager as well. Really, hundreds of different options you can set up as far as pricing rules for each of your customers. Once the order has been created in Fishbowl or coming through Web Shop Manager, it'll be sent into the picking module to be processed. So this is going to show, here's all my orders that need to be picked. Fishbowl even color codes those orders. Green means this order is ready to go. Yellow means this is a partially fulfillable order. And the red means that this order is not ready. We don't have any in stock. It's all on back order. So I need to either build it or I need to order it in order to be able to fulfill this order. Real time, as they receive the inventory into stock from that PO, these colors will change. We have a nice dashboard view that can show, all right, this order just came in. This is all the customers we can now fulfill. Fishbowl can generate your pick tickets, and it's really just kind of a start and finish function. I start it, generate the pick ticket. What Fishbowl does have tools, and you can choose whether to do this or not, is when the order comes into Web Shop Manager, it can automatically just send and print the pick tickets to the printer for your users to go grab, or your pickers to go grab and ship. Or they can come in and start it, or again, you can do this with a barcode scanner or a tablet or a smartphone as well. A lot of our users will still generate and use a pick ticket, even though they're using the scanner. You notice there's a barcode on here, so I can literally, print the pick ticket, you grab your scanner, you scan the pick ticket, pulls up the pick on your scanner, which walks you around the warehouse to pull the order. You can group picks in Fishbowl, so you can come here and say, I'm going to pick everything, so you can group it into one large pick ticket, which is going to walk you around the warehouse to pull everything needed for all these orders. Once the picking happens, it's sent to our shipping module to be shipped. Fishbowl is going to either grab the shipping information it pulled from Web Shop Manager into Fishbowl. It's already, the program already said it's going to be UPS ground or whatever it is. But Fishbowl does have the ability, and it does work directly with the UPS, FedEx, USPS, DHL, Canadian Post. All these are built in right in the Fishbowl, so you don't have to leave our software. So a number of users right now are probably using like WorldShip or FedEx Ship Manager. We will grab your account information from UPS or FedEx or whatever other these users you're using. So you'll get your pricing, and again, this label creation is all directly in Fishbowl. For example, with UPS, I select UPS, UPS shows up, you get your UPS quote. Fishbowl will ask you if you want to accept the quote, which will generate your UPS label. Fishbowl will then prompt you to print a packing list. The packing list is generated, it'll have UPS and their tracking number on it. We do have an option out of Fishbowl to email your customer with the packing list, but more often than not, you're using Web Shop Manager then to update the tracking information back to Web Shop Manager, and they're tracking it there. All right, once UPS shows up at the door, you come in, select UPS. Here's all my UPSs that are going out the door. You finish it, Fishbowl then relieves the inventory in the background of what was shipped. If necessary, Fishbowl can generate bills of lading. If you're doing like larger carriers, this is all user defined, so you can create any like freight or common carriers, whatever you're using there. Again, we can generate bills of lading. We can generate shipping invoices that maybe need to go along with it. We do also have the ability to capture electronic signature if you want anybody to sign for these orders as well, all done with that smartphone tablet piece. So that's kind of the flow. Web Shop Manager into Fishbowl directly to the picking module, picked, packed, and shipped. Inventory is updated in the background. So this is sales flow. We kind of talked about purchasing, receiving. We touched on creating the items, forecasting the items. We talked about how we can do kitting, but we can also do bill of materials and manufacturing. We talked about the link with QuickBooks. Really, that's what I wanted to cover today. Again, certainly love to cover any specifics. But at this time, if you don't mind, let's cover any specific questions that may have come up through that. Any other specific questions maybe on what our barcode scannings can do? I don't mind also fielding any questions on, do you do this manufacturing wise? How does your kitting work? Any questions that may have come up?
So a couple questions here, Trent. And again, everybody just remember that you can type the questions into your GoToWebinar questions panel, and then we'll try to address those during the webinar today. Questions we can't get to, we'll make sure that we follow up with you afterwards. But one of the questions I had was, when you're using QuickBooks, how is the order from Fishbowl being integrated into QuickBooks? Is it a sales order or does it come in as an invoice?
I think it's a fantastic question. The flow works in Fishbowl, then we will then update QuickBooks automatically with an invoice to do the receivables there. Or if the order's been paid, we're simply just updating QuickBooks with the order. So the flow is sales order, pick, pack, and ship, invoice in QuickBooks. Then the next order would be a purchase order in Fishbowl. I receive that inventory into Fishbowl, then we would update QuickBooks with an item receipt. At the same time, we are updating and you're mapping your items to the chart of accounts from QuickBooks. So we are actually grabbing these chart of accounts in QuickBooks, and the mapping is there. So then we're updating QuickBooks with the chart of accounts and the item receipt when I receive it. Then when we reconcile in Fishbowl, that's where we're going to convert that item receipt and update QuickBooks with the bill. So this is an example of, I need to pay my vendor for these items. One feature that Fishbowl has, which a number of users like yourselves need, which is pretty common that I run into, and the reason why we take reconciling away from QuickBooks is this feature here, which is, they charged $100 to ship this order to us, where Fishbowl has a feature called landed costs, which can take the cost of anything additional. I just put shipping, but I could put freight, customs, palleting charges. If you're a manufacturer, they painted it for us, so I got to add those charges to it. you can add these additional fees to the cost of the item. So the idea, instead of $65 for that item, it truly cost me $66 because they charged $100 to get it here. But when I finish this, that's when we're going to update QuickBooks to the bill, and the bill will now show up in QuickBooks to now pay your vendor. Now, how it works in QuickBooks is the item number here in QuickBooks, it'd be an item called an FB_item. And then let me go open up an invoice here. And then what we do is the item number and the description are both in the description field. And the reason we do that, we do not, if you're a Fishbowl user, you no longer use QuickBooks as inventory piece or item control piece. The reason is, and many of you have probably already experienced this, QuickBooks database is not meant to handle much. You know, we get too many item numbers, you get too many customers at it, you get too many orders through it, the QuickBooks database chokes and dies. So we took over all the item control away from QuickBooks. We're still updating QuickBooks with the invoices and the specific information on the invoice, but it's both in this description field, which now allows you to keep and stay in QuickBooks much longer because you're not going to outgrow the QuickBooks database. A number of our users were, you know, we have 100,000, 250,000 items in our database. QuickBooks isn't possible. With Fishbowl, it certainly can be at this point. The Fishbowl is running a full SQL database that's meant to handle much more.
Thank you, Trent. Another question that I have here is related to products. What happens when there's a product in Web Shop Manager that is not loaded into Fishbowl, or vice versa, where Fishbowl has an item but it's not in Web Shop Manager and you try to push inventory?
Got it. So Fishbowl has the two-way sync with Web Shop Manager, which does have the ability to grab new items from Web Shop Manager and populate them in Fishbowl. And I believe we do have, and I'm 99% there. I'll double check too, and I can send it to the team. But I believe we do have the ability also, when you create a new item in Fishbowl, then we'll update Web Shop Manager with that new item. So it is literally a two-way sync, which is nice if you're going from Web Shop Manager, maybe not in QuickBooks because we can't pull from QuickBooks as well, but creating that initial database to go live with Fishbowl. You know, literally, we can do our connection with Web Shop Manager, and we can pull your Web Shop Manager item list, you know, inventory list, all that from Web Shop Manager into Fishbowl to create the Fishbowl database. We also do that with QuickBooks. So any QuickBooks users out there, we do that as well. And this is everything that we pull from your QuickBooks file. You know, company information, vendor, sales, new open orders, items. This is everything that we can pull from QuickBooks initially. But from then on out, it's a one-way sync to QuickBooks. Fishbowl's doing the update in QuickBooks.
Hey, Trent, I have a question. So a lot of our clients drop ship a great deal. What's the communication chain back to Fishbowl from the distributor, letting Fishbowl know that products have shipped and communicating shipping and tracking information back from that distributor?
Sure. So Fishbowl, again, as far as the dropship features, we do have the ability to say this is a dropship item. Go ahead and create the PO for me. So the first process is completely automated. I'm getting to your question, I promise. So it will create the PO. It will have the ability to email that PO to the vendor saying, send this directly to my customer. So that's the first step that it does. And at that point, what happens is you're waiting to receive notification back that PO has been received, and where you can add the tracking information to have Fishbowl update your Web Shop Manager. There's no, I mean, you could do this if any of your vendors have like an EDI portal where it can automatically update Fishbowl with that information. Otherwise, you know, we can also, we've done this before for the others too. We've done custom development where it actually communicates that information from vendor to Fishbowl. But most of the time, that vendor just needs to notify you, yes, I shipped it, and here's the track information. Then you've got to come back into Fishbowl, and you have to reconcile it in Fishbowl, and then you have to add the tracking information by hand, unless you do some type of EDI interaction.
So related to that same concept with drop shipping, if I have an order that comes through that has 4 products on it and they come from 3 different drop shippers, how does Fishbowl handle that?
Yep, love the question. So what Fishbowl does is if there's 3 different items and 3 different items are drop shipped from 3 different vendors, first of all, Fishbowl will default to vendors of what to create the PO for. So we'll create a default vendor for each of these items. So what Fishbowl does, if it's 3 different drop shippers, we'll put the PO number, comma, PO number, comma, PO number, comma, and then creates the 3 PO numbers. So literally we'll create 3 different purchase orders to be able to fulfill that customer's order. What's cool about Fishbowl is we also tie that original sales order number to those 3 different POs from those 3 different vendors. So it's all easily traced.
So to expand on that one, so we have multiple suppliers. Does Fishbowl rank them over time, perhaps, right, after receipts, based on price or time to delivery? So
Fishbowl, what it does is it automatically, the default vendor is either set where you set it to a default vendor, or is an option where you can set it to the lowest cost default vendor. That's it.
How does Fishbowl handle sales tax?
Great question. Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of options with sales tax. If it's pretty straightforward sales tax, again, we can grab sales tax from Web Shop Manager, pull it into Fishbowl as an option. We do also have the ability for you to simply select the tax rate that's applied to the customer. My favorite way is we do also have a full integration with Avalara. And Avalara is, especially we're selling to all over the country, where Fishbowl does the ability to do like shipping verification or validation, I should say. You push our Avalara button, which will automatically look at their zip code and their address and tell you what the taxes are and add them to the order. So it's either you're entering the sales tax rate for that customer. You can also default the sales tax rate to the customer. But if you're shipping all over the nation or the world, Avalara is the way to go. You just click the button, it tells you the tax rate, which automatically adds it to the order.
But if the order is coming in from Web Shop Manager, then you're using the sales tax rate
Correct.
and amount from the order, correct?
Correct. That's right. Yep. We're just feeding whatever Web Shop Manager tells us to. That's right.
And then I have to have my own Avalara account that I would set up and pay for separately.
That's correct. Yep, you got it.
So one last question that I had come in would be about the cost for Fishbowl. Is that something that you can cover today, or is that something that you would do on one-on-one demos?
Certainly we could cover both. I can get you some quick ballparking. So Fishbowl, as far as how we work, is we're sold basically on concurrent users, and you have access to it at the same time. It's more of a one-time fee and you own it, so much like how the Quickbooks Enterprise model works. So you buy the software, you own it, and then what we do is we have yearly fees for support and upgrades. So the yearly fees, the first year is included, but if you wanted to renew, it's optional. But then you just pay about 25% of the software cost per year if you want to renew. Our base packages, I'll just kind of tell you what those are. Our 2-user warehouse version, because we do have 2 different versions. We have a warehouse version, and we have a version that also does manufacturing. So our warehouse version 2 users, $4,400. Our version that does manufacturing as well for a 2 concurrent user is $5,895. So $5,895. And then we do have like training options. We do have like our barcoding piece is an add-on. Really everything I showed you in the software today is included. The add-ons would be like the barcoding piece if you wanted to add that as well. But anybody that wants to get into more specifics on pricing, love to help you with that. We certainly provide my information. Give me a call. We can get to a lot more details that way.
Excellent. And I did have one more question come in here. How does Fishbowl handle drop shipping from the U.S. to Canada?
So again, it's really if it's an order that comes into the U.S. and you're drop shipping it directly to your vendor, or your vendor is drop shipping it directly to Canada, I would assume. Fishbowl just kind of does the work as far as creating the documentation, if that makes sense. So Fishbowl will create, if you tell it to drop ship item, whatever the build to and the ship to is, whatever vendor is attached to that item, it's going to create the PO. If it's a Canadian vendor, it's going to create a purchase order with the Canadian information. We do have, and it might be more of a multi-currency question as well. which we do have the ability to do, where you can put your home currency in Fishbowl, but we do also work with multi-currency with all over the world, where we can show you like what the current exchange rate is. We work with Yahoo Financial and Quickbooks' exchange rate thing, whatever they do, which automatically connects, which will show you the pricing. So when you send the PO to the vendor, it'll show what makes sense to them under their currency. When you receive it, it's going to, it'll go back to your home currency. So I think the answer to your question is we do the paperwork. It'll send it to a Canadian vendor. The Canadian vendor sends it to the U.S. customer. You know, it just kind of handles it that way. Did you need to clarify that at all?
Charlotte, do you have more questions around that? She does need more clarification. I'll connect the two of you after the GoToWebinar.
Sounds good.
You guys discuss that further.
It's hard to answer that question without me probing. You know what I mean? So this is kind of a difficult setting to answer that question. I apologize.
No worries. All right. Last opportunity to ask any questions before I have Adam wrap up the webinar today. Okay. Adam.
Awesome. Thank you, Trent. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come out here and show us and give us a demonstration on Fishbowl. With that being said, if anybody needs to contact Trent, I have his information up on the board up here. Again, there's his numbers toll free, and then you can go online to fishbowlinventory.com, and then his email is up there. Other than that, our next webinar is going to be May 23rd, and it's going to be a Web Shop Manager overview. We're going to go over searching and navigating and other cool tips and tricks on WSM. And so just be on the lookout for future emails. Other than that, thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Trent.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great day.